Hi there, this is Brett Lonsdale, and I'm across the pond from Sandy again. So, how are you, Sandy?
Hi, I'm waving across the pond to you.
Fantastic. So, we were just discussing before we hit record that yeah, it's now dark outside. It's getting to that time of year. It's only
Yeah.
just gone 4 p.m.
Oh.
and yeah, okay. It's that time of year where you get home from the office and you don't go out again. You just want to
Mm,
snuggle by the fire, and that's
mm.
it.
I was just reading something yesterday, probably like a meme type thing or something about how, there's this big controversy about whether or not we keep daylight savings time and whether you want dark in the morning when you go to work or dark in the evening when you get home. Of course, you guys have it both ways, really. But then somebody
We still
pointed
shift the
out,
clocks.
really, the question is, why should you be scheduling your work schedule around the sun? Like maybe we shouldn't be working these hours. I don't-
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and there's these questions that people, I guess, don't ask. But yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, if we
Mm,
could do something with the 7 or 8 hours of daylight that we actually get here in the UK in the
right,
winter,
right.
and then work in the evening, that'd make more sense in the winter.
Yep.
Yeah,
Anyway.
absolutely. But yeah, I guess it's everything. It's schools and so
Mm,
on too. And
right.
um, actually, right now I am now walking the dogs in the dark at 7:15
Mm,
a.m. So it's
mm,
still actually dark.
mm.
So yeah, if we didn't shift our clocks, then that would be 8:15.
Right, right.
So yeah, it's that would be horrible, I think. At least it's light by sort of 8 a.m. ish.
Right.
And yeah, there we go.
Mm.
And you'd still be going home in the dark anyway. So,
Mm. Yeah.
but yeah, so be it. That's the way it
Yeah.
is. That's why
Yes, I guess so.
yeah, that's what we get from living in the UK. But it's on the flip side in the summer. It's
Right, right.
which
Yeah,
I know you've
that's really
experienced.
nice. Yes.
Yeah, you can sit outside and see what you're barbecuing still at 11 o'clock at night.
Cool.
There we go. So we've had yet another busy week.
Mm,
With as we introduced last time, we were working on Lightning Forms and
hmm
the release of that.
hmm
And we've had our webinar now, so we can
Yep.
now talk about that as it's happened. And we've got another release coming up of Social Squared, which I've
hmm
been busy working on all day today. So that's nice and fresh in my mind.
Good.
And we can talk about that. And we've got a show next week.
Right. Yep.
Uh,
Well, so Lightning Forms is actually released now, right?
Correct.
So yeah, it hadn't been as of the time of the webinar, but it is actually on our website. So if you're a current customer, you can go to our download center and actually download the new package, Lightning Forms and List Actions, both version 3.4.
Yeah.
And then if you are not an existing customer, why not? But also you can download a trial of that.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got some exciting news to come soon as well. I don't know
Mm.
whether maybe we should mention something about
Mm,
that.
maybe not
Ooh,
quite yet. Let's.
okay. All right. Let's hold off for a little while.
Yeah, but it is exciting. We'll tell you that.
It is extremely exciting, yeah. So, yeah, Lightning Forms. So, yeah, we talked about what the new features were, but we did a webinar on Lightning Forms, and actually, it's the first time as well we switched to using Microsoft Teams for
hmm
the webinar over using Zoom. I think it'd
hmm
be worth talking about that a little bit as
Sure.
well, because um, it's a question that comes up from a lot of people. Why do we use Zoom on our webinars and why do we use Zoom for our demos? Well, we don't anymore. We use Teams for both of them, but there is a genuine reason why we were not using Teams for our webinar, and that was just really the lack of registration. So
Mm,
um, prior to it is probably about a year ago now, I think.
probably.
Yeah,
Probably.
so you couldn't actually register to attend a Teams webinar like you would with GoTo webinar and also Zoom webinar. So both of those always had the registration form where you could sign up to attend it, and that would automate the link being sent to you and that sort of thing,
Mhm.
so that you could join. And yeah, that's the piece that didn't exist in Teams. So yeah, I guess once it came out, we wanted to experiment with it a little bit as well. But there was also something else holding us back too, and that was integration with HubSpot. So one of the things that used to happen when we were booking demonstrations with our potential clients was you'd have this back and forth email about trying to compare calendars and so on. We used things like Calendly in the past too. But our sales database is actually in HubSpot, and the way that it integrated with Zoom and Zoom Webinar was just fantastic.
Yep.
They'd absolutely nailed that. So you could see the calendar for whoever's going to deliver the demonstration and book in with them without having to have that back and forth conversation, and just get the link to Zoom and so on. We'd capture all your requirements in HubSpot, so we'd know that information ahead of time and so on. So that didn't actually catch up with Teams until October this year. So now it has, and yeah, it's all running very slick again. So
Yep.
and we can enjoy using Teams.
Yep. And how was the actual presentation experience from your side?
Yeah, great. I mean, there's some fantastic features in Teams. So I love, the ability to have side-by-side video with the presentation that you're sharing and so on. That works really, really well. A great improvement over Zoom, actually, because in Zoom you've got no choice but to just be a box somewhere, and just it always looks wrong wherever you are. So invariably I just didn't have my camera showing when I was doing a Zoom webinar. So I experimented this time and had my camera showing, and made sure I brushed my teeth and brushed my hair. so it looked relatively presentable when I was delivering that. So
and I think from an attendee perspective too, I think it looked good. I mean, I attended as an attendee, and you could choose when you were joining, as you say, when you registered, it pops into your calendar, which is nice. And then during joining the meeting, you could choose whether or not to show your name, or if you wanted to be anonymous. And then there was the chat, the regular Teams chat, which is always useful. I find easier to deal with than the Zoom chat too.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that also works great.
Mm.
Fantastic. So so yeah, it went well. We demonstrated a lot of the new features. So there was yeah, the emphasis was very much on the sublist, I think it's fair to say. So things like column formatting coming through, the ability to create command bar actions in a sublist on your form. So that would be on the display form. I think, yeah, these were great things to be able to show. So yeah.
And I liked the use case you chose too about risk assessments, because there are quite a few of our customers who are using forms for exactly that.
Oh,
It's surprising to me because I hadn't realized there was that much call for that, but I guess it's a thing that your suppliers and so on always want you to do, and safety and all of that sort of thing. It all involves risk assessments. So but I know a lot of the people I've talked to in support who are using Lightning Forms, that's exactly what they're doing with them.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, I did not know that when I chose it as a subject, but yeah, the reason behind choosing that as a subject was really I was trying to think what would actually show off the column formatting capabilities of sublist. So of course, typically in a risk assessment, you've got some conditional formatting going on, highlighting things in red if they're high risk and so on. So I thought, well, that's a good match. So
Cool.
yeah, excellent. So so we wrapped up Lightning Forms. As you mentioned, you can download that now. If you do want a private demonstration, feel free to sign up for one. You can do that on the website.
And it'll be in Teams.
Yeah, it'll be in Teams. Yeah, you'll get the Teams link straight away, and so on. So that's awesome. And yeah, we're working on our next release, which is Social Squared. So so we've got some new exciting features. Again, just to kind of position what Social Squared is. So it's a discussion board tool. There's lots of discussion board type software out on the internet that you may have used, things like Stack Overflow and what have you. There's a whole ton of them, of course, on people's websites or companies' websites. And the idea is that you build out a community of people that can help reply to questions and so on. And usually they're under moderation. So certain moderators make sure that the questions that you're asking are in the right forum. They might move it if it's in the wrong forum and so on. So that's the type of thing that you can do inside of Teams and inside of SharePoint with Social Squared. So the benefit there is huge, because whilst Teams and SharePoint are both collaboration tools, they've both got communication features, you could argue so has, Outlook, your email or your telephone, and with WhatsApp and all that sort of thing. But all of those don't offer an easy way to recall that information and find that information. So that's what Social Squared is really bringing, is through that structure of organized forum groups and forums, is that ability to find questions that people have asked in the past. And yeah, you can go ahead and search them. You can use tags or just simply navigate to where that content is. So great addition to Teams.
Yeah, because I mean, you mentioned that there are a lot of forums out there on the internet, which is true, but there are not a lot of forums, if any, that work within Teams. I hear that from customers a good bit. Like, I've been looking and looking, and yours is the only one that I found.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
mm,
Yeah, and it's not a new product for Lightning Tools. It's something that we've had around. In fact, it wasn't always called Social Squared. It was called Lightning Storm Forums at
right.
one point. So yeah, we had Storm Forums that evolved into Social Squared. That was around the SharePoint 2007 era,
Hmm.
and developed. So really, there was the underpowered SharePoint discussion list that it replaced, and now Teams is just a natural place for it to be. So it works really, really well there. So in fact, that's a good point, because some of the features that we've integrated into the SPFX version for SharePoint Online and Teams are things that have been around for a while in the WSP version.
Right.
And we can probably just address two of those straight away, and one of those is terms and conditions.
Right.
So with any type of forum, it may be that you're creating a forum for a community of practice or something like that. There's typically going to be some guidelines that you need to follow. And what we used to recommend is, you could put these in a post and then make that post sticky at the top of each forum. But actually, it's more beneficial for those to flag up to you as soon as you sign in. As soon as you land into Social Squared on that page or on that tab inside of Teams. So yeah, you'll see what's expected of you in the community. And any rules that need to be identified, you can see those inside the terms and conditions and then agree to that. And that will be something that you can set as a Teams owner or a Teams admin on your instance, or likewise in SharePoint as the administrator, you could do that on your instance, or you can globally set it as well. So if you were wanting those terms and conditions to show up in any instance of Social Squared in your tenant, then you can do that with PowerShell. So you can run the PowerShell command and upload the terms and conditions, and they'll display.
Oh, great.
So yeah, there's that, and I think what sits really nicely with that is the ability to report abuse as well. So yeah, of course, in some subjects, people might get a bit heated and say something that was unintended or whatever. You just need to watch what's going on in the jungle on our TV at the moment, and you'll see that. So yeah, for some reason we stuck Matt Hancock in the Celebrity Get Me Out of Here on TV. So yeah, he's not being an MP for 6 weeks. He's sat in the jungle. Yeah, so there's heated things that are being discussed about that. So so that it does happen. And so what you could do is report some abuse, and the forum does need to be under moderation. But what it will do then is raise the post where you received abuse, and it will raise that with the moderator, so the moderator is aware of it. They can, of course, edit that. They can delete it. They can, of course, speak to the person that was abusive. So,
or even just anything inappropriate, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think it's a great feature.
Yep.
So yeah, there's those. Did you want to call out any too?
Sure. I like a couple of the new subscription types that you can do. You can now subscribe to forum groups. So Social Squared is broken down into forum groups, which are really broad categories that you might set up. And then each forum group is made up of forums, which are still categories, but little less broad, and the administrator or the team owner or SharePoint site owner sets both of those levels up. And then within each forum, there are topics, and that's what the people, the members create, each create the topics. And you've always been able to subscribe to a topic. So if there's a topic that you're especially interested in following, you subscribe to it, and then you'll get a notification every time there's a reply. You can also always subscribe to a whole forum. So again, that's the subcategories, so to speak. And so anything in that forum, you'll get a notification on new topics that are posted or replies. But now you can also subscribe to the whole forum group, so the even broader category, because we were finding that a lot of our customers have created a lot of forums. So they've got forum groups that are the broad categories, but then they have a lot of subcategories. And it was not convenient for people to go in and subscribe to every one of those forums when they really wanted to. So now you can subscribe to a whole forum group, one or more, and then you'll be notified on anything new that happens in that whole forum group. So it could be a
Fantastic.
lot, just
Hmm.
FYI,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but if that's what you want, if that's what you need, then you have it.
yeah. And
Also, oh,
mhm.
go ahead.
I was going to say, hopefully, with that, at some point, we'll have the ability to implement some sort of digest
Mm,
notification as well, which would be ideal. But our hands are tied on that one at the moment.
right,
But
right.
yeah, hopefully, we will be able to at some
Yeah,
point.
that was one of the things we do have in the WSP for on-prem that we have not yet been able to implement in online because of not having time or jobs, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then the other new subscription you can do is subscribing to tags. So in Social Squared, you can tag each post as you create it and as you reply to them. And that's really convenient then when you display the tag cloud view, which shows your standard sort of tag cloud with the more frequently used tags being larger font, and then you can click on a tag to get to display all of the posts that were tagged with that tag. But now you can actually subscribe to those tags as well. So if you're looking at the tag cloud and there's a particular tag, so this might not be, I mean, this might be a tag that's used throughout that instance of Social Squared. Maybe it's a different it's a category, but maybe your team owners didn't make that as a forum category, but you still want to know about all the things that have to do with that, with
So,
that subject.
so this is actually a feature that I put forward based on a customer requirement in a
Mm,
demonstration, and so this is for a worldwide organization. And the forum groups and the forums, the structure of that was not about the countries themselves, but there was a representative
mm,
from each country. So it could be on all sorts of topics that were worldwide political things that were
mm,
going on. So it may have been wars, it may have been climate, and so on.
mm,
Um, and the people representing their country needed to know when their country is mentioned.
mm.
So,
Excellent.
but you still want that organization to not be the country,
Right, right.
because they wouldn't be talking about the climate specifically in a country. They'd be talking that in general, it'd be about the world.
Mm,
So yeah, that ability to say, hey, I want to subscribe to the UK, and
mm,
whenever the UK gets mentioned as a tag, I get notified about it,
mm,
whether it's under war or climate or whatever. Yeah, I'm going to receive that
mm.
notification. So yeah,
That's
I
a
thought that
great,
was
great use case. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So again, it's like all of these features not necessarily going to be for everybody, but it's there if
Mm,
you've got that
mm.
requirement and you can implement it. So
I mean, when I talk to customers about setting up their social squared forums, a lot of times I'm doing their onboarding, and we're talking about their architecture and just going back and forth about how, what are some good practices about setting up the categories and subcategories, and people struggle with that because they feel like there could also be other categories and that cross them. And this is exactly that type of use case. This way,
hmm
individual forum members can almost have their own categories, so to speak, something that they're interested in following, whether or not it's been built into the forum as a category.
Yeah, precisely. And the
Mm.
fact that you get those tags suggested to you when you're creating content
Mm.
as well would mean that if I was actually thinking about tags when I'm writing some content, but yeah, I mentioned the United Kingdom in a post, Social Square is going to suggest the United Kingdom tag to you
Mm.
if it exists.
Mhm.
So yeah, that way it's yeah, going to send that alert out,
Mm.
which is great. Because yeah, otherwise you could be subscribing to a whole bunch of forums or forum
Right,
groups
right, right.
and getting a lot of noise on the emails, which nobody wants. So yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So yeah, that's a great addition.
Mm.
Yeah. There's also some behind the scenes things as well.
Mm.
So Social Squared uses a rich text editor for building the post, and one of the challenges with that was there was a restriction on the size of embedded images. So those embedded images, well, that size limit could have been met easily using a phone, for instance. So if you were
Mm.
using Social Square through the Teams mobile app and you took a photo and you wanted to use that photo in your post, it's likely to be exceeding that size limitation of the rich
Mm.
text editor. So you
Mhm.
then have to make it an attachment, which wasn't quite right because you want to actually see it in the body.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there's a lot of behind the scenes work. You won't notice anything in the UI, but yeah, you
Except that
take
it'll work.
yeah, you take that photo now and it goes into a document library
Mm.
where yeah, unlikely you're going to meet any file size
Right,
limits and so
right.
on. So
Yeah, that's a really good one, because we do have a lot of people using Social Squared on their Teams mobile app.
mhm, yeah, yeah, for sure. That's great.
Mm.
So just trying to think what else there is. I think
I think those are the big ones.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
so there's some anonymous posting refinements
mm,
too.
yeah, I
So
think the other
oh,
ones are
and
more
keeping track of
refinements.
yeah, keeping track of the move forum, I
Right.
think is a key one.
Yes.
So so yeah, if you were to create a post, and let's say just for argument's sake, we've got a Microsoft Teams forum and we've got a SharePoint forum where people can ask technical questions. So if somebody decided to post a question about Teams and they put it under SharePoint because they thought in their mind that was the best place for it, as a moderator, you could decide to move it. And
Mm.
until today, if you moved that post, the person who created it, the author of the topic, would probably be a little bit lost as to where's
Mm.
my post gone because I
Mm.
put it into SharePoint. I can't see it
Mm.
anymore.
Mm.
So now there's actually the stub, if you like. So you'll be able to
Okay.
still see the subject that you created and all the metadata associated with that. But it's got a little icon in there to indicate that it'd been moved. And then if you
Mm.
opened up that post, the only thing you're going to see in there is a link to where it is
Mm.
now, which is in the other forum. So yeah,
Nice.
much easier to keep track of. And
Mm.
that way also some things are more relevant to more forums. Now I want to improve this
Mm.
more by having the ability to cross post
Mhm.
against forums.
Mm.
So maybe there's something to in that scenario that we chose. It's important to the climate as well as war.
Right, right.
So I wanted to go into both forums
Mhm.
to be able to actually choose multiple forums for it to be posted within,
Mhm.
and to be able to see the comments that people are making as well in each
Mhm.
of those, regardless
Mhm.
as to where they're commenting.
Mhm.
But still today you can sort of get towards that. It's a step in the right direction. So if I posted something under climate, I could then move it to war, and yeah, you'd at least see the stub under climate and see where
Mm.
that post is. So
Mhm.
I
Cool.
think that's quite a good one there.
Yep. Yep.
And the other one was anonymous posting. So we had anonymous posting anyway, but it was something if you enabled it, then the user has the choice as to whether they want to post anonymously or not. So again, this was feedback from a potential client who said, well, we want to really force that because the nature of our forum is we don't want anybody to make the mistake
Mm.
that they didn't check that checkbox or
Mm.
uncheck the
Mhm.
checkbox and then
Mhm. Mhm.
post as their identity and it's too late.
Right.
Everybody's seen who posted it
Right. Right. Right.
and so on. So yeah, you can force just anonymous posting now,
Mm.
and users can't have a choice to overwrite it. It's just going to be anonymous
Yep.
or force it the other way where you can't be anonymous
Mm.
as well. So
Mm. Good. Sounds
yeah,
like
so
some good enhancements. Mm.
absolutely, yeah, and Social Squared is
Mhm.
also nominated for the European SharePoint Conference, which is taking place in Copenhagen. They have some awards every year, and Social Squared has been nominated for the most innovative SharePoint and Teams app. So
That's awesome.
super excited about that. Hopefully
Uh-huh.
we'll win. We're
Yeah.
along
You're
with
going to be at the conference, so
we're going to be at the conference. Yeah, you'll be able to find Lightning Tools. Come and sit with us next to our fireplace. It's going to be on the booth. Absolutely, you'll
that sounds fun.
have fun. Come and check us
Mm.
out.
Cool. Are you having the racing sim there or not? Just
Not
the
the racing
fireplace?
sim. We're having a Christmas tree.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll have it'll be a very Christmassy feel to Lightning Tools booth.
Mm.
So
Well, actually, speaking of that, you were just at a show last week too,
mhm.
where you did have the racing sim, and how did that go?
We did, yeah. We were at the London Business Show,
Mm.
which is held at the Excel Centre, which is where Microsoft Ignite
Huge. Mm.
is, and so on. It's massive place. So there was about 30,000 people that registered for this event.
Mm.
700 exhibitors and so on, all to do with business in general. So it wasn't necessarily IT or tech or anything, but yeah, it was all to do with business and growth. So it was very interesting to see some of the different partners there and have some discussions, as well as see how people are growing their businesses. So
Cool.
yeah, that
Great.
was awesome to be there.
Great.
Fantastic. Well, I guess the next time we'll be talking will be post ESPC
Right. Right.
in Copenhagen. So it'd be
Yeah.
good to give a review on that and
Yes. Yes.
to talk about the upcoming webinar that week too. You'll be
Right.
able to
Yeah.
find out whether we won.
Right.
So-
Yeah. Yeah. Very exciting.
Good
All
stuff.
right. Sounds good. Well, it's been great
Yeah,
talking to you, and
likewise.
have good travels next week.
Thank you. Yeah,
And I'll see
uh,
you when you're back.
sounds great. All right,
All
take
right.
care,
All
Sandy.
right. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.